Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jim Daly and back from St. Augustine, Florida today. We were there last week. Great time in the almost tropical state of Florida. Not quite tropical, but still it was great. And went down to Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth. Now, this supposedly has water that he was looking for when he was looking for the Fountain of Youth. Now, he was being paid to look for gold, but he went to Florida, and there's no gold in Florida. But legend has it he also was looking for the Fountain of Youth. So, this is what the Fountain of Youth Park is in Florida. And they sell Fountain of Youth water. And you may think that that's going to work for you. I don't know. I can't say for sure. What I can say for sure is Ponce de Leon died almost 500 years ago. So if he were still selling it today, I'd be really impressed. However, not quite sure. Now, we've got a product that we think is good for aging as well, called our new Ageless Brain. And you can see it over there. Got some wonderful things in it. And I really believe that there's nothing better to help you age gracefully and wonderfully than this. It's got methylfolate, methylcobalamin, the two B vitamins that are so important for making neurotransmitters. It has resveratrol. It is the anti-aging nutrient, the one they talk about from red wine. It actually activates something called SIRT1 that is the anti-aging mechanism. It's what is activated when they take mice, and you've all read about these studies where they take and withhold food from mice and they live about half again as long as the other mice. Well, it happens that food restriction, really strict food restriction, is what is working in those mice that are living longer. Resveratrol also activates SIRT1. And so it was billed as you can eat all you want and get the benefits of starving, so to speak. Don't know if it works quite that way, but it is wonderful stuff. Lutein, zeaxanthin are very protective in both your eyes and your brain. Ashwagandha is an herb that has been shown to be very good for anti-aging, and it works on those little telomeres at the end of the chromosome. And there's a lot of speculation that a lot of the age-related diseases are due to the shortening of those telomeres. I don't think the science is completely in yet. That may be how this works, may not, but it's an interesting concept. Curcumin, the anti-inflammatory agent that probably everyone has heard about. Great. Astaxanthin, that's also very good for anti-aging, and it's especially good for your skin, which is a major organ in the body, actually, that you see deteriorate with age. And a lot of people get astaxanthin just for that purpose. Now, moving on, that's our newest product, but we also have some announcements to make. First of all, new website is going strong. A lot of people are ordering off of that. Now, we're not telling you to start ordering on our website instead of calling in. We love talking to you. But for those of you who find it inconvenient, maybe you live in Hawaii, poor you. But anyway, our hours might not be convenient for you to order. So the website's very good for you. Now, I'd also like to mention that we have monthly specials every month. And if you go to our website, there's a place to sign in, sign up there for our newsletters. And you'll be getting emails telling you what the monthly special is if you do that. Also, when we have newsletters, and we try to make a big 4-page newsletter about once or twice a year, you will also get that. If you're in our system as somebody we already ship to and we have your mailing address, you'll get one in the mail. But if you don't, you'll still get one by email if you'd like to get it. Staying in touch. There's lots of ways you can stay in touch with us. Of course, our website, as we just mentioned, the telephone, like we said, we'd love to hear from you, have you call. We have a Facebook page, YouTube channel that this will be on. We have store visits. Don't do a lot of them, but we do some. So if you're a store and want us to visit, let us know. Also, for the stores who go to trade shows, we'll be at the Soho show in Orlando this coming December. And I'll be giving a talk there on the microbiome. So we'd love to see you there. And always, for all of you, we're always glad to hear from you. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about staying healthy in a toxic world. I think we all know that we're pretty well surrounded by toxins everywhere. And we're going to talk particularly about fresh air. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you're aware that I really like this little book, Nature's 7 Doctors, just because it lays out these principles of healthy living that I think are just timeless and very important to actually do each of them. We kind of specialize in the good nutrition part, but all of these others are just as important. And if you don't do any one of those right, you're not going to be as healthy as you could be. Just doing the good nutrition isn't enough. Today we're going to be talking about fresh air quite a bit, but toxins in general. Having a toxic-free lifestyle will help a lot, but it's not always possible, and there are things that you can do to help that. Now, toxic chemicals, like I said, are just pretty much everywhere. We can't get away from them. We can try hard, and some people do a lot better. If you don't live in a city, you live way out in the country without farmers around spraying the fields, well, you can do pretty good. However, not many of us in this country, at least, can do that. We're exposed to air pollutants, either from factories, automobiles, whatever. We create our own air pollution a lot of times. People who smoke are getting an awful lot of air pollution that they're causing. And you can do it other ways. But we can also get pollutants in our drinking water. Thinking particularly of chlorine. And chlorine's not even the worst. Chlorine can form complex compounds with methyl groups from decomposing bacteria that it kills. And those chloromethanes that are produced are even worse than the chlorine itself. So it's kind of a no-win situation on some of these things. You know, the new car smell that everybody loves? Well, those are plasticizers. They're not great for you. You know, you need to ride with the windows down and not the air conditioning on when you get a new car. And we all know about the chemicals that many of you probably use to get rid of plants that we don't like. This guy's spraying a flower. It's a dandelion. Oh, that's such a great green to eat, and it's a good liver protector. People put this in liver products all the time. You know, it's a wonderful plant, and we get a lot of those out there that we just kill, and we poison ourselves in the process. And hairspray, you know, lots of people use hairspray, and that really is putting a lot of stuff into your lungs, not just on your hair. So if you can at least get away from the aerosol and use those little pump sprays, that's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. And we put toxins on our skin. We eat toxins in our diet. Ever notice the smell when you put gasoline in your car, you're standing there by it? That's not great. I like to put that thing on the little lever that makes it go by itself and then back off from it. I don't like to stand there. I really get annoyed when it doesn't have that feature. I have to stand there and hold it because the gasoline smells, they have some nasty chemicals in there. And we put a lot of nasty chemicals down here on the bottom is a washing machine, commercial washing machine, but a lot of those chemicals are pretty nasty. Pay attention when you wash your clothes, get laundry detergent, what's in there. Some are not so bad. Some are pretty nasty. So, but we're constantly exposed to these types of chemicals. Our clothes are made with chemicals a lot of times. Now you'll notice today that I'm dressed a little differently than usual. I've got a hat on. This is a natural fiber hat. It's made from a plant grows in sort of tropical regions, Tokyo or something like that. And it's a straw hat, it's a Panama hat, and these hats are natural fibers. So that's a nice feature of this hat. But I'm wearing other clothes with natural fibers. This is a 100% cotton jacket made by Orvis. This is a T-shirt. It's 100% cotton, made by Banana Republic, or at least they sell it. And these are Nautilus pants made by that company that are made out of linen and cotton. So all natural fibers here today. And you can do that. And if you really start paying attention, you want to go to natural fibers, you know, it's easily done. It's not hard to do. You just have to sort of go read the labels like you do with your foods when you buy clothes. So I find natural fibers are a little bit more expensive, and if you're really wanting the wrinkle-free, which I have to admit I like, but those are chemicals, basically plastic polymers that they spray onto it to keep it from wrinkling. So you've got chemicals, even if it's a natural fiber, if it's a wrinkle-free, they've put the chemicals back in it. So, you know, you can't get away from that, and maybe you look quite as sharp and well-dressed as you would otherwise. These clothes are much more casual, and that seems to have been the trend with natural fibers. You don't see the really nice dress shirts and the nice suits and stuff quite as much. But you know, for most of the time, we don't have to look that nice. If I'm doing a presentation in Korea, I might want to dress up a little bit more. And when I go over there, I want to have wrinkle-free. So, okay, but here I can dress a little bit more relaxed and actually be healthier. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Now, toxins. Let's just talk a little bit about what toxins are. First of all, everything is a toxin. And that's one of the difficult things because everything, the maxim of toxicology is the dose makes a poison. And it comes from Paracelsus, who expressed the classic toxicology maxim, all things are poison, and nothing is without poison. Only the dose makes a thing not a poison. So, we know that everything's a poison because you can poison yourself with water, literally. Pure water, the greatest water in the world. You can still poison yourself with it. If you drink 6 gallons a day, for sure, you're going to die. And people have died with much less than that. So, it actually goes throughout your body. Your brain swells from too much water, and you die from the brain swelling in that situation. But almost everything is a toxin. Maybe not an acute toxin that you'll die right away from, but some are very acute. Some toxins are more chronic toxins, and they don't, they accumulate. And these are harder ones to identify a lot of times because they're more chronic toxins that accumulate in the body. You don't see the results of the toxins right away. So that's one reason it took a long time for people to actually prove beyond a reasonable doubt, I guess you would say, that smoking causes lung cancer. Because lots of people are running around smoking without lung cancer, Uh, and only a relatively small percentage of them got it. But it turned out finally they were able to show that a whole lot more people got lung cancer who were smokers than the ones that didn't. Very few people who were not smokers, and some got it, but very few people got lung cancer who were not smokers. So, you know, it takes a long time with the more chronic type poisonings to really nail down what it is. And that's one reason why we have to be careful about what we expose ourselves to. We don't know yet a lot of the things out there that we're being exposed to, whether they're going to turn out to be toxins down the road or not, because the data just hasn't been, you know, put together correctly to be able to see it. And that's why many of us are very leery of new chemicals, of new things like the GMOs, because we just don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. Now, there's a number of different ways that you can become exposed to toxins. One is ingestion, things that you eat, food in your water, or swallow otherwise. That's a major one. Inhalation, air pollution, smoking are just two examples of that. The thing about inhalation is that the lungs really give you very little protection against toxins. If a toxin is inhaled into the lungs, it's almost always absorbed. Your skin can be a pretty good barrier against some toxins. Usually the oily toxins get through. Other ones do not. Also, your intestinal tract can be a pretty good barrier for toxins. You can eat a lot of toxic things, and either the digestive enzymes will break it down in case of toxic proteins sometimes. The fibers in your diet can bind to them and carry them out. The bacteria in your gut can break them down and detoxify them. So there's a good bit of protection against ingested toxins. Now, we can also have absorption. You know, poison ivy is an example of that, through the skin. I think many people have done this. We know that the oil-based toxins get through the skin very well. We saw that with the assassination of Kim Jong-un's brother in Malaysia, where they just put a little bit on their face of a VX toxin. It took about 15 to 20 minutes for him to die after that was put on his face. That's serious. That particular toxin, it only takes about 10 milligrams to kill you. Just more recently in Britain, the Russian couple there, well, not couple, the father and daughter were killed, almost killed, by toxins the Russians put on. It was a powder, but it was also a oil-soluble toxin that, to the touch, it's much more powerful, really, than the one that was used in Malaysia. And so all they had to do was put it on the doorknob, apparently, and when they opened the door, they were exposed to it, and it didn't take long. It was slower acting, but very, very dangerous. It took very little of it to poison them. And so, you know, the route through the skin is real. It does happen. And like I say, the poison ivy is a toxin definitely that many people, if not almost everyone, has experienced. Also, we have the injectable type poisons. I'm not talking about the ones that the doctors give you. Some of those are pretty toxic too, but that's a different thing. The snake bites, bee stings, Botox injections. Actually, Botox is a very powerful poison. I could hold enough in my hand to kill every man, woman, and child on the earth. It's that toxic. It's horrible stuff. And, you know, but they're injecting it at people without any, you know, obvious toxicity. I always wonder if somebody really messes up in a lab and gets the dose off, you know, they're going to start killing a bunch of people in a hurry. because it's that powerful. But so far that hasn't happened yet. But it is a very powerful injectable toxin. But it's also one that you can eat. The botulism toxin is one that people have died from their own canning foods at home. When the bacteria grow that produce the toxin, you know, people die pretty quickly from it. It's a powerful toxin, and that's a number of ways. Now let's talk about the ingested toxins a little bit. There again, we have acute and chronic toxicity. And a lot of the really acute toxicity we see are accidental poisonings, like some people in New Jersey a few years back who right about dusk were out barbecuing and had these little tiki lamps going. And one of them grabbed up a bottle of the oil for the tiki lamp instead of the apple juice and poured everybody a cup full of it. And 6 people got really sick that drank that. 2 died. And that just kind of points out you got to be careful with these chemicals around your house. You can cause great harm. I knew a person in Mississippi who had lye under their sink, and their grandkid came to visit and drank some of that lye, and it just ate away their esophagus. That kid will never be normal again. Probably not even still alive. That was a lot of years ago. But these kind of accidents do happen. So charcoal, however, is something that's really great to have around. And this little bottle here could save your life, because it will absorb a lot of toxins, because it has the ability to bind to things and keep them from being absorbed. So there was actually even a study a few years back, and I've lost track of that study now, but I had it in one of our newsletters, that showed that you could delay peanut allergy poisonings by giving people charcoal right after eating peanuts, and it would bind to the allergen in the peanuts and make it much less of a reaction to it. And you know, people with peanut allergies can die literally in minutes. They go into anaphylaxis that quick. Now, chronic toxicity is a lot more difficult, like I said before. But we have a lot of things with low toxicity included in foods and beverages, but many of them may have a cumulative effect. Now, toxins, our body is able to detoxify. It's supposed to. The liver is one of the main areas of detoxification in the body, because it produces enzymes that break these toxins down and neutralizes them. And over time, many toxins will break down, but we know that there are cumulative effects and additive effects of toxins. For instance, we know that vitamin A taken in very high doses can be toxic, but you have to take an awful lot. And we know that alcohol, when it's drunk, can be toxic. And not quite so much of that, in a way. People drink toxic amounts of alcohol very frequently. However, when you combine the two, vitamin A combined with alcohol becomes very toxic. That has an additive multiple effect on the liver. The liver just doesn't handle that well. So this is a hard issue, because people who are alcoholics tend to be vitamin A deficient. On the other hand, I feel really uncomfortable recommending vitamin A to somebody that I know drinks a lot. So it's a really a difficult situation there. It's not something that I like to deal with, but it's a very real problem. And so you have to be very careful. And I would say that I would give them probably a fourth the dose, if I was going to do it, that I would give an ordinary person, just enough to keep them from having a um, acute deficiency, but whereas I might give somebody 10,000 IUs of vitamin A, normally that's a good dose, and up to 25,000 for some people. I would probably back off to 2,000 or so of vitamin A for somebody who's an alcoholic. Make sure they get some, but be really careful about it because you can destroy their liver. Now, pure air, and that's one of the major topics for today of the toxins. Well, what is it? 78% of it is nitrogen, which, as far as we know, doesn't have a big effect in the body because even though proteins are made of nitrogen, a lot of different things, we can't use that form of nitrogen. So we have to let the bacteria in the soil convert that into a form of nitrogen that we can use. But it's there anyway. Oxygen, 21% of the air. Now, that's something we have to have and we really do use, and the only place that we can get it in sufficient amounts is from the air, and that's what our lungs do. Argon, surprisingly, is about 1%, and we have lesser amounts, about 0.5% carbon dioxide. Then we also have a little bit of neon, methane, helium in the air. But these are things that are supposed to be in the air. Anything else in the air is bad. With a caveat or two there, but generally, pure fresh air is really what you want. That's what is good for you. And when you start adding smoke and other things, you're really not getting the air that you need. And this has had as a long tradition in natural healing. All of the great healers have recommended deep breathing exercises, going on walks in the mountains to breathe that fresh air and breathe it in deeply and fill your lungs. It's wonderful. It's detoxifying of other things as well. Now, like we mentioned before, lungs are very susceptible to airborne toxins. Because it has very little barrier to prevent them from getting in. Research has demonstrated that when people exposed to small particulates in the air had nearly twice the risk of diabetes, of all things, of other people. And they were very small particle sizes. That's very recent research. Burning incense in the home slowed the development of children in Taiwan. The incense isn't that great, apparently, even though it's something that a lot of people do. It's part of their culture. That smoke is still smoke, and it's not good for you. Incense was also shown to be a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. So, there's some things there that aren't really that good. In fact, dogs and cats are more susceptible to respiratory problems in the home that burns incense, not just the people. And yeah, he doesn't like it. But also, you think of other things, more traditional type things. Burning wood and coal for heat can be a major source of indoor pollution if you don't have the chimney working right, particularly. I know a house that I renovated for a health food store in Knoxville had a coal furnace down there, and you think that probably, with an enclosed furnace, you wouldn't get that much. When I started tearing walls out, you wouldn't believe the soot that was stored in those walls. I came home, totally black. Sometimes my clothes, me, everything. I'd have to go outside with a hose. Hose off before I go in the house. It was awful. It really was. But that was a long time ago. I'm sure that didn't do much for my lungs. Fortunately, the lungs, if you turn around and quit exposing them to things, they do have the ability to heal a lot of the damage. That's been shown in a number of studies. So they can recover if you haven't developed, a disease like emphysema or a lung cancer or something like that. Those are sort of hard to reverse. But if you get it before you get to those kind of stages, they usually can reverse a lot of that damage and heal themselves. Household chemicals and aerosols are common sources of indoor pollution, as we mentioned before as well. Now, another thing that really can be kind of bad, and that's why I'm talking about a little bit of this. Plastic toys may not be the greatest risk to your children. You know, sometimes people worry about kids chewing on the plastic toys. That's probably not the biggest risk of plastics in a way. Synthetic fabrics clothes are made out of might be worse. Like I said, wrinkle-free clothes are treated with a formaldehyde resin which can off-gas and be pretty toxic to your lungs. There's been some recent research on microfibers that are released into the environment from clothes. These polyester clothes and plastic type fibers and nylon derivatives and various things like that, they give off in a washing machine when you wash them as much as 1.5 grams of material, tiny little fibers that come off, and about 700,000 small fibers in one washing. They're tiny things, microscopic, but they're showing up in the lungs of fish and their gills and stuff in the oceans. These things are going out of the wash water into the treatment plants, but they don't get removed in the treatment plants and out into the lakes and whatever. So these little microfibers, they're beginning to look at now, and I just saw the research, some research on that, very preliminary, but still, that these things may be doing a lot of environmental damage. But if you think about it, you're also wearing clothes. These little tiny fibers, you know, you're brushing your clothes off and stuff, they're going to be floating up in the air. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if someday they start looking at that and saying these little plastic tiny fibers are doing damage in your lungs, just sort of like the asbestos fibers did. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. I don't know that. I'm speculating, okay? So I hope I'm wrong about that. However, the difference is if you take these natural fibers, they will not last long in your lungs, in your body, because the bacteria you have there will digest them and eat them and they'll be gone. It doesn't happen with the synthetic fibers. Water, of course, is kind of what we'd call a universal solvent. It's a great detoxifier. You know, we remove toxins from our body through perspiration, through urine, through feces, a lot of different ways like that. All of those require water. So, you know, the pure, unadulterated water is really what you need to dissolve these things and move them out in a lot of cases. And of course, water protects the kidneys, which is one of the major ways that we get rid of toxins through the urine. And we had this in a previous thing, but when they looked at these agricultural workers in Florida, 53% were dehydrated when they actually left work. Well, when they came to work, and at the end of the day, 81% were dehydrated. And at least once a week they tested them, and 31% tested positive for acute kidney injury from water deprivation. So they're really losing one of their major ways of detoxifying. But, you know, Urofit will help that. It'll help those kidneys to work better. And that's one that I recommend if you're having problems with kidneys, to kind of give your kidneys a little edge on doing that detoxification work. And detoxification, that's a word that's thrown around a lot, and a lot of times I'm not quite sure what it means. I don't know what toxins they're talking about or what route they're talking about. They just sort of use it very loosely. However, helping your body detoxify is good. Your body should do it on its own without too much help. But sometimes it needs a little extra help. Well, how safe is our water? Well, nothing is completely safe, but a common way of looking at toxicity of water is itself that over a gallon per day is probably going to be toxic. So, like I say, we're talking about detoxifying water, but we also have to realize that it can be a toxin too. So we have a number of toxins listed here. If you just like to go down through that list and just see about how much it takes. But, you know, for acute toxicity, that's what that mostly is. Most of these things take quite a bit. Now for chronic toxicity, maybe not quite so much. But we do see that water is probably the safest thing we can think of as far as toxicity. Dealing with toxicity, one more thing I would like to say in helping you deal with it is that we can't totally avoid it. However, we can avoid them as much as possible and try to reduce the toxic burden in our life. The liver is a great detoxifier, but liver toxins are also a big problem. Some of these toxins actually focus on the liver, and in that case, the liver can't handle it. Silymarin, which comes from the milk thistle, this is actually used as a drug to treat Amanita poisoning, the Amanita mushroom, the destroying angel. You know, just one of those mushrooms would be lethal to just about anybody. In fact, just touching those mushrooms and then eating food will probably make you very sick. It's that toxic. So they're deadly mushrooms. That's probably the deadliest mushroom. That is the deadliest mushroom species that we have in North America. I don't know if there's more deadly ones other places or not, but it's a very, very dangerous mushroom. The milk thistle will help protect your liver. Even better, on an ongoing basis, Livervite is really a wonderful liver protecting supplement. One I highly recommend. You can also use some supplements to detox from the intestinal tract itself. And Miracle 7 Colon Cleanser can help the colon clean out the gut, get rid of toxins. And the L-Salivarius, I like to use these as a pair for colon cleansing and occasional detoxification of the gut, because the L-Salivarius can get rid of some of the bad bacteria. It's an aggressive bacteria that produces what they call bacteriocins, which kill some of the other bacteria. And this is a good one because the ones that it kills are the ones you really don't want that much. So that's a good one to take with your colon cleanse, and then try to really take a supplement like Colonate or something to really build up your good bacteria so the bad ones don't come back again. It's sort of like in the gut, you can only have so many bacteria, and the bad ones get too many in there, they crowd out the good ones. So you've got to switch that balance over. So today, the main message I'd like to leave you with is do what you can to avoid toxins in your environment. Try to live a really clean life. I really think that in the long run, using the natural fiber clothing is going to be better for your health. Avoiding the chemicals that you put outdoors, all the bug sprays, the herbicides, and if you do use them, wear a mask and gloves to protect yourself. But try to avoid them as much as you can. Get out of the cities and live out in the country. Okay, easier said than done, I know. But I know people that are doing it very well. But, you know, a lot of these things that we can do will really improve our lives and our health. And then, when you can't do it all, you know, trust that your body can do some of the detoxifying, and take some of these supplements as you need them. And you don't need them all the time usually, but as you need them, they can give you a little extra boost in detoxifying your body and getting rid of some of these things. Well, have a wonderful rest of the week, and I enjoyed being here with you today. Look forward to seeing you next month. Goodbye.